The sun beat down mercilessly on Forward Operating Base Condor, nestled in the rugged mountains of an undisclosed location in Central Asia. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell wiped sweat from her brow as she meticulously cleaned her Macmillan TAC-50 sniper rifle, a ritual that brought her peace amid chaos. As one of the few women to ever complete Navy SEAL training, Sarah had fought twice as hard for half the recognition, but her skill spoke volumes where her voice remained measured and calm. Colonel William Mitchell, no relation despite the shared surname, paced the command tent, his weathered face grave as he studied satellite imagery. Intelligence had confirmed the presence of a high-value target responsible for attacks that had claimed dozens of American lives. The target had been spotted at a mountain outpost 4,000 meters away, a distance that pushed beyond the limits of conventional sniping. "We have a narrow window," their colonel announced to the assembled team of elite snipers. "Target will be exposed for approximately 3 minutes at 0600 tomorrow. Beyond that, he disappears back into territory we can't touch." Sarah listened from the periphery, noting how the colonel's eyes skipped over her as he addressed the 13 men selected for the mission, all decorated marksmen with confirmed kills at extraordinary distances. She recognized several from training exercises: Master Chief Peterson, who trained under Audie Murphy's specialized program, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, who'd broken records at Quantico, and Captain Reynolds, who'd written the book on high-altitude ballistics. "This shot is beyond extreme," Colonel Mitchell continued. 4,000 meters with variable wind conditions, significant elevation drop, and temperature fluctuations. We'll need to account for the Coriolis effect and rotation of the Earth. One shot, one opportunity. Sarah's mind was already calculating variables, factoring in elements the others might overlook. She'd been mentored briefly by Lieutenant Susan Ann Cuddy, who had taught her that precision came from patience and understanding the invisible forces at play. During training, Colonel Eileen Collins had pulled her aside after watching her outshoot men who dismissed her presence. "They'll never hand you respect. You'll have to take it one perfect shot at a time." As the briefing concluded, Sarah approached the colonel, who was deep in conversation with Master Chief Peterson. "Sir, I'd like to be considered for the shot," she said quietly. The colonel's expression remained neutral, but his eyes betrayed skepticism. "Lieutenant Mitchell, we've selected our team based on experience and confirmed kills at extreme distances. With respect, sir, I've been training specifically for ultra-long-range engagements. My qualifying scores were impressive on paper," he interrupted. "This isn't the range, Lieutenant. Lives depend on this shot." Sarah nodded, her face betraying nothing of the frustration beneath. "Understood, sir. I'll be standing by if needed." That evening, as the 13 snipers prepared your equipment and ran calculations, Sarah sat alone on a supply crate, watching the distant mountain where tomorrow's operation would unfold. The target location was barely visible, a tiny outcropping that would require perfect execution to hit. A shadow fell across her, and she looked up to see Captain Reynolds. "You really think you can make that shot?" he asked, curiosity rather than condescension in his voice. "I know I can," Sarah replied simply. Reynolds studied her for a moment. 4,000 meters is beyond theoretical maximum for even the best equipment. Sarah met his gaze steadily. Sometimes the impossible just hasn't been done yet. As darkness fell over the base, Sarah returned to her quarters, reviewing her calculations one final time. Tomorrow would bring either vindication or further invisibility. Either way, she would be ready when the moment came. Dawn broke with an eerie stillness over the mountains. The 13 elite snipers positioned themselves strategically along the ridge, each man making final adjustments to his equipment. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell watched from the command post, her fingers unconsciously checking the custom modifications she'd made to her rifle scope, adaptations for extreme distance shooting she'd developed during countless solitary practice sessions. Colonel Mitchell's voice crackled over the radio. "Target location active. First team, prepare to engage." The first 3 snipers attempted their shots in sequence. Each man fired with precision honed through years of combat experience, yet each shot fell short or was carried off course by unpredictable wind patterns. The tension in the command center thickened with each failure. "Something's not right with the wind calculations," muttered Master Chief Peterson after his attempt sailed wide. "There's a cross-current we're not accounting for." 4 more snipers tried and failed. Sarah studied each attempt, noting the subtle shift of dust particles in the valley between their position and the target. The others were using standard formulas, but this environment demanded something different. "Sir," she approached Colonel Mitchell cautiously, "the valley is creating a vortex effect. The wind readings at our position don't reflect conditions at mid-trajectory." The colonel barely glanced at her. "Lieutenant, we have men who've been making impossible shots since before you enlisted." As if to punctuate his dismissal, an urgent transmission cut through the radio chatter. "Command, we have movement. Target is preparing to depart. Estimate less than 10 minutes remaining." The atmosphere shifted from professional tension to barely controlled panic. The intelligence was clear. If this target escaped, 3 separate terrorist cells would activate across the region, potentially costing hundreds of civilian lives. The 6th, 7th, and 8th snipers missed their marks. Captain Reynolds, considered the best among them, took his position with supreme confidence, only to watch his shot disappear into the void, missing by mere inches, but missing nonetheless. 5 minutes, came the update from surveillance. Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Lieutenant Commander Jackson, his face grim. "Mitchell, I saw your qualifying scores. They weren't just good. They were impossible." "Not impossible," she corrected quietly. "Just unprecedented." Jackson held her gaze for a long moment before turning to Colonel Mitchell. "Sir, let her take the shot." "We have protocols," the colonel began. "With respect, sir," Jackson interrupted. "We have 5 minutes before mission failure. Protocol is a luxury we can't afford." A tense silence fell over the command center. Sarah stood perfectly still, her expression betraying nothing of the storm inside her. This was the moment she'd prepared for through years of doubt and dismissal. Colonel Mitchell's jaw tightened. "You missed this shot, Lieutenant, and it's not just the mission that fails. It's the lives that will be lost afterward." "I understand the stakes, sir," Sarah replied, her voice steady. 3 minutes, came the update. "Take position," the colonel ordered, his tone making it clear this was her one and only chance. Sarah moved with fluid efficiency to the firing point. The other snipers watched with expressions ranging from skepticism to desperate hope. She settled behind her rifle, making minute adjustments that confused the observers. "What is she doing?" someone whispered as Sarah shifted her position slightly off standard. 2 minutes, came the warning. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, recalling Colonel Eileen Cullen's words during a particularly grueling training exercise. When everyone's looking at the same problem the same way, sometimes you need to step sideways to see the solution. She opened her eyes, made one final adjustment to her scope, and drew a slow, controlled breath. The crosshair settled on a point that seemed to be deliberately off target, accounting for variables only she had calculated. 1 minute, came the final warning as Sarah's finger curled around the trigger. The command center fell into absolute silence as Sarah squeezed the trigger. The rifle's report echoed across the mountainside, a single sharp crack that seemed to hang in the air. For 4.6 seconds, the calculated flight time of the bullet, no one breathed. Sarah remained perfectly still, her eye never leaving the scope, her body absorbing the recoil with practiced precision. Through her scope, she watched as the target suddenly dropped. The radio crackled to life with the surveillance team's voice, tense with disbelief. "Confirmed hit, target down. Repeat, confirmed hit at 4,000 meters. The command center erupted in controlled chaos. Colonel Mitchell stared at the satellite feed, his expression shifting from shock to grudging respect. Captain Reynolds shook his head in amazement, while Master Chief Peterson demanded to see Sarah's calculations. "How did you compensate for the valley updraft?" Lieutenant Commander Jackson asked, examining her rifle setup. "I didn't fight it. I used it. The thermal patterns create a corridor effect if you time the shot precisely." Colonel Mitchell approached, his weathered face unreadable. "Lieutenant Mitchell, that shot shouldn't have been possible." "No, sir," she agreed. "Not by conventional calculations." The colonel extended his hand. "Conventional thinking is what kept us from putting you on the line in the first place. That's a mistake I won't make again." Word of the shot spread through military channels like wildfire. Though the operation remained classified, the achievement could not be contained. 4,000 meters, a distance that redefined the boundaries of what was considered possible in combat sniping. 3 weeks later, Sarah found herself summoned to a secure facility outside of Washington, D.C. She was led to a conference room where General Janet Wolfenbarger waited alongside several high-ranking officers. Lieutenant Mitchell, the general began, your shot has forced us to rewrite the manual on long-range engagement. More importantly, it's forced us to reconsider certain institutional biases. Sarah stood at attention, her face betraying nothing of her inner emotions. The intelligence we recovered after your successful elimination of the target has prevented 3 major attacks and led to the dismantling of a network we've been tracking for years. That's the official record. She paused, her expression softening slightly. Unofficially, you've done something equally important. There are 19 women currently in advanced sniper training who cited your shot as their inspiration. After the briefing, an elderly woman approached Sarah in the hallway. She introduced herself as the granddaughter of Deborah Sampson, who had fought disguised as a man during the Revolutionary War. She would have been proud, the woman said, pressing something into Sarah's palm. This belonged to her. Sarah opened her hand to find a small, worn compass. Its needle still pointed true after centuries. 6 months later, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell found herself instructing an elite class of snipers, men and women selected for their exceptional potential. The training facility had been renamed the Cuddy Collins Center for Advanced Marksmanship, honoring the women who had broken barriers before her. The impossible shot isn't about strength, she told her students on their first day. It's about seeing what others don't. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful force on the battlefield is patience. As the sun set over the training range, Sarah watched her students practicing their fundamentals. The 4,000-meter shot had changed more than military doctrine. It had changed perceptions. She ran her fingers over the antique compass she now carried as a talisman. Its needle still pointed true after centuries. In the distance, targets stood at varying ranges, including one placed at exactly 4,000 meters, a silent reminder that boundaries exist only until someone quiet enough, patient enough, and skilled enough decides to transcend them.